After the explosion of the Kakhovka hydroelectric power station, dozens of settlements down the Dnipro river were underwater. Ukrainian authorities and volunteers are doing everything possible to evacuate people from flooded areas, even under fire from Russian army. But on the left bank, the Russian occupation authorities were unable to take out the victims. Moreover, they do not allow people to evacuate themselves and do not allow volunteers to visit them. The city of Gola Prystan was completely quarantined. Volunteers were not even allowed to hand over the essentials to local residents.
Russians with machine guns threatening them and shooting into the air said that without documents they would not let them get any help. This is, they consciously understand that people are left without food, without fuel, and they just watch it silently for people to die.
A week after the Russian invaders undermined the Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant in the Kherson region, 46 settlements remained flooded. In the neighboring Dnipropetrovsk region, 165,000 families in 32 towns and villages were left without water supply.
President Putin's unprovoked war of aggression against Ukraine has changed our security environment for the long term. Russia has shattered peace in Europe. The destruction of the Kakhovka dam today puts thousands of civilians at risk and causes severe environmental damage. This is an outrageous act which demonstrates once again the brutality of Russia's war in Ukraine.
Representatives of the International Criminal Court in The Hague have already begun to investigate the explosion of the dam of the Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant.
It is very important that representatives of international justice saw with their own eyes the consequences of the Russian terrorist attack, and they themselves saw that the Russian terror continues, and it continues with the most cynical and cruel shelling of the flooded territory evacuation areas.
The Russians continue to use terror tactics. On June 11th, the Russian invaders blew up a dam on the Mokry River. This is a border of Zaporizhia and Donetsk regions. So the Russians are trying to slow down the counteroffensive of Ukraine, said the representative of the defense forces of the Taurida direction, Valery Shershin.
First, the invaders blow up the Karlevsky reservoir, then the Kakhovka hydroelectric power station. Then they blew up other hydraulic structures in the occupied part of the Zaporizhia region. In the Zaporizhia region, they are expecting a breakthrough by the defense forces, so in order to slow our advance, they resorted to this tactic when they again blew up the hydraulic structure on the Mokry River. But this does not affect the advancement of the defense forces. Valery Shershin, spokesperson of the Joint Press Center of the Defense Forces of the Taurida direction of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, in a comment for Ukrainska Pravda.
Ukrainian intelligence reports that Moscow is likely preparing a terrorist attack at the Crimean Titan enterprise in occupied Armyansk. According to intelligence information, the Russian occupiers are mining the workshops of the enterprise, as well as the planting explosives in the factory.
The terrorist attack at the Crimean Titan enterprise, for which the Russian invaders are preparing, will mean an artificial man-made disaster, terrifying in its consequences. The refrigeration equipment of Crimean Titan uses about 200 tons of technical ammonia. In the event of an explosion at the plant, an ammonia cloud, depending on the direction of the wind, will cover nearby areas in half an hour. From the post of the press service of the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine on Telegram.
The United States may recognize Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism. The relevant bills have already been submitted to Congress. The initiative was supported by representatives of both of Democratic and Republican parties. Reported by Roman Smoler, Natalia Husak, UA TV News.